We all instinctively and experientially know how different sounds can affect us. A crying baby, a siren, or a single note on a violin. And we often turn to music as a source of comfort or joy or excitement, or as a way of helping us build our energy. So it makes sense to me that it's also part of our healing journey. And as I've reflected on this conversation and on the guest I'm about to introduce to you, music or sound has definitely been part of my own healing journey. Welcome to the Henny Flynn podcast, the space for deepening self-awareness with profound self-compassion. I'm Henny. I write, coach, and speak about how exploring our inner world can transform how we experience our outer world, all founded on a bedrock of self-love. Settle in and listen and see where the episode takes you. My guest today is Kathy Harmon-Luber. She's the author of Suffering to Thriving, your toolkit for navigating your healing journey, how to live a more healthy, peaceful, joyful life, which sounds like a really wonderful thing. And Kathy herself was bedridden for 5 years with a range of debilitating health conditions, and I'm sure she will share some of that with us today. As a certified Reiki and sound healing practitioner, she now helps others as they navigate their own illness, injury, loss, and also she supports others as they learn how to cope and to thrive. I am delighted that she's with me today, and I'm really looking forward to exploring how important sound can be in adopting a more compassion-based response to ourselves and the world around us. And my instinct says that much of the benefit of sound comes from this change that it can create in our mood state, our emotional state. And also, I am really curious to talk to Kathy about what ancient wisdom tells us about sound, and also ask her about what modern science is telling us about the way that sound impacts our whole physiological system. So this is going to be one of those wonderful, wide-ranging conversations, I'm sure. And I'm looking forward to Kathy joining me in a moment. So, Kathy, what a joy to welcome you here. And I mean, even just in the couple of minutes that we've been chatting before I press play, I can already feel this is going to be one of those enriching conversations.
Me too, Henny. I'm delighted to be here.
Oh, wonderful. And we've just for everybody listening, we've recognized that Kathy and I are both sitting here surrounded by trees. And yeah, I kind of feel as though, let's bring a little bit of that tree energy and wisdom into this space as well.
Love it.
Lovely. So, as I was reflecting on our conversation today, I noticed there have been a number of reminders for me around how sound is so important for me and has been so important in the changes that I've made in my own life. And one of those reminders has been in a conversation with a client today, and we were talking about how to connect with our inner parts. So I'm a therapeutic coach. I do a lot of work with parts work with clients. And this client said to me, well, do you have any tips about like how I can do it when I'm not with you? And I said, yes, music. And then I thought, that's really interesting. I'm talking to Kathy later, because one of the things that I found when I was doing my own sort of discovery of my own inner parts was that I had a piece of music that helped anchor me back into that place and help me connect with them on this very deep level. And my recognition is that actually it was that piece of music that was the key that helped me drop into that space. And
Beautiful.
I just kind of wanted to open there and sort of see, where does that take you, Kathy?
Oh, I love that, Henny. Yeah. Yeah, I think we all realize that music is deeply moving, excuse me, and powerful in our lives. Like we just think of our favorite song and it shifts everything within us, right? So it makes sense. And it's interesting. People are beginning to realize now what our ancient ancestors, you know, many years and centuries ago knew that sound is really healing. And in every culture, sound has been a part of healing. Whether we look at ancient Greece or we go to ancient China and India or South America, all over the planet, in every culture, music is a part of healing. And we've gotten away from that really in modern day life. And I think it's wonderful that we're coming back to it. What we're seeing is such a resurgence in sound healing that it's being integrated into hospitals and nursing homes here in the United States, all over Europe and Canada. It's like it's being integrated to work in complement with modern medicine.
Mm.
And so it heals us in many ways, Henny. My entry point into sound was a couple decades ago. I was a busy nonprofit executive, very stressful job, had to raise a lot of money, all the issues of managing an organization. And I was very stressed out. And so I began to go to yoga studios and, there was sound integrated. And then I started going to sound baths and drumming circles on the beach in Santa Monica. And what I noticed is it helped me with my massive anxiety at the time. It helped me to just kind of reset and come back, as you were saying, to that inner place where we can take a deep dive and really get in touch with our intuition and what I like to call our inner healer. Our bodies have innate wisdom. We are so busy in our society, our devices and our jobs and our families and everything, that we get super disconnected from that. And sound is a beautiful entry point in. And so that was the beginning of my journey. And then I've had, for many decades, spinal issues, 7 hereditary spinal issues that have gotten progressively worse. When I was 20, I was told I had the spine of an 80-year-old woman and that I would
Mm.
be in a wheelchair by the time I was in my mid 30s.
Wow,
I'm not,
Kathy.
thank God I'm
Yeah.
not, but it put me on a journey to look at lots of alternatives and not even alternative medicine, complementary medicine. What could I do in combination with Western medicine to have the best life possible? And in 2016, I had a tremendous spinal disc rupture. It's like the little jelly cushion between the vertebrae. It ruptured. It was the 4th one, and it was inoperable. And it left me bedridden for 5 years. And I was in a pretty dark place when my husband said, "You should be listening to music every day." And I'm like, "Oh, right. I'm a classically trained musician. What was I thinking? I wasn't in that place to even see that." But I began to do that and I felt so good. And it took me to a different place in my head and within me. And then I began with a little more time on my hands and years of being really pretty much not able to go swimming or running or hiking in the mountains or any of the things I love to do, dancing. I had time to really explore sound healing and understand the science behind it, why it works. And I got that's when I got certified, even though I've been doing sound baths and things for many years. I got certified. And I began to realize that sound was helping my spine to heal. And I'm happy to say I'm at a place, doctors said it was really 50-50 whether I would ever walk again, or ever, even basically get out of bed again. And I'm thrilled to say I walk every day now,
Mm.
and I have a pretty normal life. And so I credit sound with that in many ways. And part
Gosh,
of
gosh,
why
Kathy,
it,
there's some, I mean, there's various things sort of coming up for me as I'm listening. There's part of me that just wants to, I just want to create some pauses because there's so much in what you've just shared.
yeah,
And one of the things that sort of went through my mind as I was listening to you is, this sense of you being bedridden, being there, this reminder or remembering that sound music is actually really important to you. And I kind of had a sense of it's one of my favorite books, Louise uh, What Katie Did, not Louisa May Alcott. I can't remember who wrote it, but do you remember the book What Katie Did and What
I
Katie Did next?
don't.
Oh, it's
No,
American
what did Katie
classic,
do?
Kathy.
Oh,
Oh my
oh
goodness.
dear.
Oh yeah.
And I'm such an avid reader.
Oh, well, it was definitely a book from my childhood. And part of the story is about this little girl who was bedridden, and this uh sort of feeling that she had of like, pushing at the resisting what it was that was keeping her there.
Mm.
And then I think an
Oh,
aunt arrives and sort of gives her this wisdom that helps her understand that actually this time that she spends in the bed can also be a time of growth and learning and
oh,
discovery.
wow.
Yeah. And I just really felt like her
Absolutely.
here as you were
It was a
talking.
time of
Yeah.
discovery. I'm astonished I don't know this book. But
Yeah.
anyway, it was a time of discovery. And I learned we could go one of two ways.
Mm.
I could, every moment is a choice. And we always hear that. But until you're in a pretty dire situation where that's all you have is that moment of choice. And I realized I could become one day a very, bitter, angry old lady, right? Or I could choose something different.
Mm.
And so every day it was about, what am I choosing today? I could choose to suffer, or in my mind, or I could choose to thrive. What's it going to be, Kathy? Right? And that's hard. I don't want to make it sound like, it's an easy choice. It was not. There were plenty of dark days, but at the end of the day, I had to find something to live for. And I say this in my book, and I believe this. It's like our healing journey can be a portal to a whole new life that we can be grateful for. I can now. I wasn't in that moment. I did not see the silver lining in it at all. Plenty of dark days, but it opened the door for me to go deeper into sound and energy. Like I also do Reiki. I'm a Reiki master. So between sound and energy, and making those a path forward when other paths clearly were not an option. Like we could sit there and say, ask all the wrong questions, right, Henny? It's like, why is this happening to me? Um, what did I do to deserve this? I mean, we can just go down that rabbit hole of terrible questions, right? Or we can say, what if? What if something better is happening in my life and I just don't see it yet? What if there's something new to explore? And so I really leaned into that and
Mm.
said, I love this sound and energy stuff. Why don't I get certified? Why don't I learn more? And in my practice of doing it, it helped my spinal healing exponentially. And I began to learn why. Like there's some fascinating science behind this. There's some amazing things coming out of UCLA, University of California, Los Angeles. a guy by the name of James Jimzewski and medical doctors working together in research have discovered that all the different kinds of cells in our bodies make a sound that they can hear in the laboratory, right? And so a heart cell has a different frequency than a brain cell, and so on. And what they recognized was when cells were atrophied, when they were sick or diseased, they stopped making their frequency.
Okay.
But what made them get reinvigorated and heal is the very frequency that they are known to emit. And
Okay.
so I get
Okay.
goosebumps when I say this, right? Like this is like
Yeah.
big.
This is so big. I want again to sort of to pause to allow that piece of knowledge. That's
Yeah.
something new for me as well, and I'm
Mm.
sure that's something new for many people listening. Um, and it resonates with a piece of some research that I saw recently around water cells
Oh,
and
yes.
how uh, they change, the actual shape of the molecule changes according
That's right.
to whether it's coming sort of fresh from a mountain spring or it's a water molecule that's, in water that's gone through many, many, many people in a city, and how scientists are now looking at what actually helps restore that molecule
Yes.
to its original shape, and it feels very very aligned with that work as
It
well.
it is.
And of
It is.
course, I mean, it makes it, on such a visceral level, it makes so much sense that if there is a sound that a cell naturally emits, then the sound mimicking the sound that it emits will be what it responds to. Gosh, how beautiful. So tell us more about the kind of science then that the people at UCLA are uncovering,
Yeah.
and the
Okay. So
impact that
so
has.
basically this will really change, I think, the face, and not just me, a lot of people are saying this. It changes the face of modern medicine. It is why so many hospitals and nursing homes are integrating sound into their integrative medicine departments.
And how are they
Because,
doing that, Kathy? In what way are you seeing that happen?
okay, I'll tell you something very personal that happened to me, Henny. My mother was in the hospital a year ago with multiple myeloma cancer. And as she was there, the department that she was in, the cancer ward, had an integrative medicine department. This was in Charlotte, North Carolina. They had a very large integrative medicine department, and I spoke with them, and they had people come by and give her a sound bath. They loved that I would be, FaceTiming with her and doing sound. I'd play my Native American flutes for her. She always loved those. And people were available to do Reiki energy healing as well, right there in the hospital.
Mm.
And I get goosebumps as I say it because, you know, also the playing of music in hospitals, it isn't just like it used to be. You'd go to a hospital room and the televisions were blaring on, the entire hall. Music, they've realized that music alone, because music we love is healing. One of my teachers, John Stewart Reed, says 20 minutes of music you love is deeply healing. People say, oh, it probably has to be classical music, right? No, not necessarily. If you love jazz or hip hop or R&B, doesn't matter. If you love it, it is speaking to the cells in your body. And why? Here's the science again. We're all energy beings, and our bodies are 60 to 65% water. And water is a better conductor of sound than air. And so right away, we're like, our bodies are these instruments that are making sound and vibrating to the sounds around us. And it takes about 4 to 5 minutes for our bodies to come into entrainment, which is just a fancy word for being in resonance and coming into the same frequency as the sounds we're hearing. So obviously, doing sound for 4 to 5 minutes, but they found that the sweet spot is really about 20 minutes. So, how easy is that? Put
Mm.
on music you love for 20 minutes. And if it is lighting you up, it's also healing, right? That's an
It's
easy little thing that we can do. Singing is
yes.
fabulously healing, and so is humming. Dr. Jonathan Goldman's done some great work on this, singing
Well,
and humming.
it's funny actually because just before coming on air, so I always do 3 humming breaths
Uh-huh.
as a way of settling my system, coming
Mhm.
deep into the parasympathetic, and I know that the work of Stephen Porges around
Yes.
the um, vagus nerve, also shows
Yes.
us how humming, that kind of that literally that resonating through the body helps to
That's right.
settle the body and bring us out of that sympathetic state. Um, and and also how I think it's in The Body Holds the Score as well that Bessel van der Kolk talks about the impact of the group of singing and how that also helps
Oh,
to settle the
yes.
system. And we all
That's
know
right.
the power of being in a choir, don't we? It's
Right? Yes, we do.
when we're all harmonizing together and that sense of the whole body being connected with the group. So much of this, it's really interesting, I think, because as as I'm listening to you, I'm listening with kind of many parts of me. And so much of what you're saying, I think we all understand on a very deeply human level. It's something that we've experienced, but our kind of inverted commas rational or cynical mind
Mhm.
is taught that when we simply trust the body's response to something, it might not be quite sort of true enough, or we need the rigor of science to prove things. Um, and so I think it's really interesting that science is now catching up, as you said before,
Yes.
with the ancient wisdom that has always known that sound is is important. I mean, if at the very least, it's that it's very, it's important for the way that we connect with ourselves and the way that we connect with others. Um, and so it really makes sense that healing is part of it. I'd love to hear from you actually a little bit more about some of the um, what the kind of ancient wisdom tells us about sound um, and maybe also how that has influenced you and the work that you do.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a beautiful question. Nobody
Mm.
has ever asked me that before. The ancient wisdom. Okay, so, it depends on where you go in the world, but think of it this way. Every culture has its medicine melodies that are passed down from generation to generation. Um, I'm thinking of in South America, which is what I'm currently studying. Medicine melodies that are used as part of healing that are transmitted, in all over Africa, um, the Middle East, singing, chanting in
Mm,
India, mantra
mm.
goes back thousands
Sufism.
of years.
Mm,
Yes, Sufism,
mm,
exactly. So every culture, and this has been my great passion, is just like going down the rabbit hole of like, different cultures and what their medicine melodies sound like. But even more than that, it's that they believed that singing, everybody, there are lots of clients I work with who say, "Oh, I don't have a voice. I don't have a voice." And I don't sing, and I definitely wouldn't sing, out loud and except in the shower. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter how good your voice is. The act of singing is so healing, and ancient cultures knew that. They built that into healing ceremonies. They built it into ritual. They did it as a way of life, and as part of their work. They would sing group songs, and didn't matter the quality of voice. Part of the reason why it works is you touched on this. The vagus nerve connects our ear. It's the wandering nerve through the body. It controls heartbeat and breath and digestion and all the things that we do not think about, right? And I believe it was Jonathan Goldman, Dr. Jonathan Goldman, who said that singing and humming, because they stimulate the vagus nerve, it is like a massage for all the organs in our body. Isn't that beautiful?
It's
And
really
so
beautiful.
I think ancient cultures knew this to some degree. I
Mm.
love studying the temple cultures and archaeoacoustics. Archaeoacoustics is a relatively new in recent decades, maybe 3 or 4 decades, branch of study that combines archaeology with studying like some of the archaeological sites and structures. We think of places like Stonehenge, but there are places all over the Middle East and everywhere, South and Central America, the Americas, the North America. There are all these places where acoustics were built into the structures in a way that when people sang or played instruments like bone flutes or drums or rattles. These are all things that we find in the archaeological record, right? Going back, I have a photo screenshot of flutes made of bone that go back like 80,000 years. It's 80,000 years. They were playing music. Why? It wasn't just to entertain. They recognized the healing power of music and singing and dance, which
Mm.
also is very healing, right? Moving the body and singing. And so I love that. And there are many ancient sites where they've discovered, and this is fascinating, that when we look at like pictographs and petroglyphs in caves, that the places where there are the most number of them, they have found are the places that resonate most in that particular cave. How cool is that? Like they marked it on the walls with their
It's like having a
art.
big sign that says like sing
Here it
here.
is.
Yeah, this is the place. I
Isn't that great?
Yeah, that's really gorgeous. And and obviously, in more uh, well, still very old structures, but perhaps more recent structures like churches,
Oh yeah.
where sound acoustics are obviously incredibly important, and the
Yes.
idea of singing carols, and this deep connection that we have culturally, um, and as a community. I think it really it absolutely makes sense that there are layers and layers to this. And just, I mean, for the limited amount that I know of like shamanic traditions, obviously sound is
Yes.
incredibly important as part of that healing
Absolutely
journey.
it is.
um
And something else happens. When we sing alone or in a group, when we sing, it's hard to be perseverating about what's going on in your life. It's hard to be worrying. It's hard to live from a place of fear. I love Pema Chodron, the Buddhist nun. She says, and probably lots of people have said this, but love and fear cannot exist at the same time. So if you're in a beautiful place of singing, you're in that place of love,
mm,
right? It's a place of love of nature, love of humanity, love of self, love of spirit or source.
mm,
And when we sing, we become like one with everything, right?
mm,
And that is a very healing thing as well. One of the things I'm studying, I've been studying with Sylvia Nakache, vocal yoga, I'm currently studying medicine melodies, right? And she goes into this in great detail about how when we become one with all, and however we define that, everybody defines it in a different way, but when we become one with all, we become a channel, and and song and sound just move through us. It doesn't have to be, I'm a classically trained musician. It doesn't have to be, I have to get that note right. I have to make sure that I'm harmonizing correctly. I don't remember where the song is supposed to go. There is something amazingly
Mm.
healing about just singing,
Just
being in
being in the
nature.
sound, just
Yes,
being in the
just singing.
sound.
That's it.
Absolutely. I've done a friend of mine, a dear friend, helped me release a belief that I had from being the youngest of four children that I couldn't sing.
Oh,
And she's a voice therapist, I suppose, for want of a better word. And she helped me release that belief and access my singing voice
wow.
as a means of expression. And that was absolutely life-changing for me, actually, Kathy, because it meant
Right.
that suddenly, so I write poetry, I use my voice for speaking, but to then have this, and it is more private, but to have this private connection with myself through song has been so beautiful. And there are many times when I drive back to where we live and I come to, like, there's about an hour away is where we first start seeing the hills, and I start singing. These
Oh,
words will just start forming and I'll start singing, and it's so beautiful. And the thing that it I think everything that you're saying, what feels very clear to me is that so much of illness and stress and anxiety is either the cause or the result of inflammation.
yes.
And I just wonder whether part of what sound does is it helps reduce that inflammation. Because, if I'm anxious and I hum, my system settles. And I know that when my system settles, cortisol is
Yes.
deactivated or is less activated, adrenaline is less activated, and
That's
therefore
right.
there's less inflammation in my system. And therefore, I can even feel myself settling as I'm saying this.
Yeah. Doesn't
Therefore,
that feel true?
yeah, it feels so deeply true. And the other thing I really want to share with you as well, I feel like I'm now like just going, Kathy, I like sound too. But I always wanted to learn how to play the piano. And a few times in my life I've really tried. And I put
Yeah.
emphasis on that word tried in this is how you learn how to do things. It's slightly hard, there's a bit of resistance, it's like a hard-edged thing.
Mm-hmm.
And this time round, I've just gone, I like that sound. Oh, I like that sound. Oh, I like that sound. So I put those three sounds together. And every day now, I play just for a few minutes. And honestly, it is the most rewarding, beautiful experience. I call it another form of meditation.
It
And at the
is.
end, because then the sound, the piece, whatever it is, it comes to this natural conclusion. And then I sit there and I'm bathed in the waves of it. I mean, this sounds like I can't, me 10 years ago would not have understood me being able to say this now, but I'm sat bathed in the waves of it. And I literally thank the piano.
Oh, I love this. Are you kidding? I love this.
It's so good.
Okay, you hit on something huge because so many of us, I started playing piano at 3 and classical flute by the time I was 8. And we learn or try to learn through a system, whatever that system is. And you've got to get it right. Like, music teachers are like quick say, no, no, you got the note wrong. And for, I think most of us, especially very sensitive types who feel the music, that is a hindrance to learning. What really has helped me is to unlearn everything I learned about
I love
playing
that.
Baroque music and getting every ornamentation perfect. Like it's crazy making in a way, and it's beautiful and it's wonderful, and I love the music. But on my path, I've had to unlearn that in the way exactly you articulated, honey. Okay, so I have native flutes, a few of them. You can't play a wrong note on them.
Mm.
I just play them because I like the sound of exactly what you said. This note and this note, there's no wrong note. That music, playing that music is a meditation. It is one of my daily meditations.
Mhm.
And it transports me to this beautiful place of just pure joy that when we're really struggling with a piece of, let's say, piano music, that we're trying to get a passage and we play it 20 times in order to get it perfect, it loses the joy. There's a joy in music in the just making the sound and being the receptacle to listen to
Mm.
the sound and let it fill us up, and being curious. Like the whole beauty of music is that we can get curious. Do I like that sound? Do I not like that sound? And what is the most amazing thing is that the sounds, like I said earlier, the sounds that we like, the music we like, is our medicine. We have to find our medicine. Do we like the medicine of the piano or the native flute or the little chimes or whatever the instrument is? And how can we play with that? We've we don't always in music play enough, like really with that childhood, joy and wonder and curiosity. When was the last time we played with that? I do that every day now, but I did not always. And
I
that came to me at that time when I was bedridden. It's like,
oh
okay, well, I can't play my classical flute. It twisted my spine and I'm laying flat on my back. My husband brought me from my studio one of my Native American flutes and said, why don't you just play with this? I thought, play, play. I don't really play with music, do I?
oh
And it took me right down this crazy rabbit hole of just inquiry and curiosity.
oh
And that's what you're
Kathy,
doing. And it fills you up, right?
it really does. And
Yeah.
honestly, that man, that man who brought you that flute,
He's
that's
a
a
good one.
wise being, I would say.
He
Yeah,
really
because
is.
I mean, really, that's and I love, I mean, I mean, the play on words here of,
Yes.
play, it's so true. Like how there are so many things in life that I feel the same way about writing. So that
Mm.
when we're at school, we're told you can't start a sentence with you can't have a one word sentence, you know, debates over the Oxford comma, um,
Yes.
these this place that we come to up in our heads rather than the flow of words on a page. And I think that might be the thing that really struck me when you and I were first introduced about sort of coming on the show, and I was thinking about the relationship that you have with sound, and it felt like there was an openness to it, not the rigidity that we can so often bring to the concept that we have of music and what music is and what music isn't. And I really love the way that you're sort of speaking about how important it is just that we find something that we love to listen to, or something
Yes.
that we love to play. And and if we love it, well, that's enough.
It's healing. That is our medicine. So in my book, I have a whole chapter on what is your medicine?
Ah,
For
lovely.
me, it's art and music and sound and nature and lots of stuff. but every person is different.
Yeah.
And you said something really interesting. I want to circle back to about how inflammation is at the root cause of a lot of disease. And that is so true. And science, medical researchers tell us this. So we know it's true. I have a theory that part of that inflammation is when we're not in alignment with our true nature, when we're not in alignment with that which brings us joy, that which is play, that which is our medicine. We all wear masks. We go to work and we're one person, or we're a different person to some degree with our families as opposed to our friends, or whatever it is. Everyone wears a mask a little bit and to varying degrees. But we also have, when we go deep within, we see our authentic self, our true nature. Authentic self is very overused as a phrase these days, but call it what you will, call it our truth. Who we are at the soul level. The challenge, I think, to building a healthy, happy, joyful, meaningful, purposeful life is identifying who am I at that soul level, and how do I bring that into every moment or close to it. It's a big challenge. Every moment of my day. What lights me up? How do I do that? Obviously, responsibly. We still have jobs and families and stuff, so we have to do all the things. But how do I bring that authentic self? So maybe it's, in thinking about sound, maybe it's just going outside and singing to a tree, something that, a melody that comes to you, right? Not a song that you memorized in school or choir, but like just spontaneously singing. Maybe it's picking up an instrument as you do and just saying, what notes are lighting me up today? Maybe it's looking at a palette of colors and saying, what color resonates with me today, right? Because whatever it is that lights you up is a message to you. Who said this? I think it was Wayne Dyer. He said something like, if, if, oh boy, am I going to get this right? If prayer is us talking to God, intuition is God speaking to us, right? And so it's that, if certain things light you up, that is your intuition.
I
It's
think
that inner voice.
I think there's something very strong coming up for me as well as I listen to you there, Kathy, that for many of us, and I hold my hand up and say me included, for many of us, we move through life without that deep connection to our bodies. And I know, and people who've listened to the podcast for a long time will have heard me mention this before, that in 2016, when I was critically ill, yeah, something
Oh,
about that
same
year.
here.
You are not the first person I've interviewed on the podcast who's said the same thing.
Wow.
2016 has been a really big year for huge life-changing events, often related to critical illness. But at that time, as part of my process toward healing, I heard myself say to one of the many practitioners who helped me, I feel as though I've been disconnected at the neck. She was a
Ooh.
nutritionist and she was asking me about my digestion. And I just looked at her with this like, I don't know what you mean. I literally didn't know, I couldn't compute what she was talking about. And then the realization, I've been disconnected at the neck. And I think a lot of my work is that I do as a therapeutic coach is about supporting people with how to come through gently through this
Yes.
blocker in the neck and come into the body and actually
Yes.
really listen to what the body is saying. And my sense is that I suspect that's an awful lot of what you do as well, Kathy, in
It
terms of,
is.
and that
Indeed.
sound enables us to hear our body, because you put a really good tune on, your body wants to move,
Yes,
Like,
right? Exactly.
so if you can
That is
connect with that, you can build a deeper connection in other ways.
absolutely. And we can have that connection when a song comes on. Up until that moment, our bodies can be rigid, contracted, stressed out, whatever we happen to be going through. Put that song on, and it's suddenly we breathe and we relax, and then we start to move.
Mm.
So, and that is the beauty of sound. You hit on something huge, Henny, and that is when you say you felt cut off at the neck. Think about this. Our heart and our heart chakra is the center. It connects our upper chakras and our lower chakras. And so often we get blockages there. And the blockages can be from the neck to the solar plexus. They could be only at the heart, they could be only at the throat chakra, different for different people. But part of what we're talking about when we say going inward, connecting to what's within, the heart is the seat of the soul, right? And when it is contracted, blocked, we often don't hear intuition speak. We
Mm.
don't hear our inner healer. I have a free offering for our listeners. I was going to
Mm.
mention at the end, but I'll mention it right now. Dr. Charlize Davis, a doctor of functional medicine, and I put together a whole series. It's free of healing the heart chakra, and she speaks about it from the medical standpoint. And it's more than just the heart and the breast and things like that. There's way more to it than that. And she speaks briefly about what's involved there and how we know when we have a heart chakra blockage from a medical standpoint. And I speak about from an energetic standpoint, what does that look like? And how do we open it? And I think it's about a 20-minute sound bath that is for the heart. And that's
Oh.
all free. And it's on my website, which we can put in the show notes. But that's huge. Like we all have had that feeling
Mm.
where we've either we're either cut off from the neck down, or we feel like the heart is blocked, or there's a contraction there, or we often can feel it viscerally. And if we don't address that, that is when it becomes a bigger health issue. As you say, inflammation, when we are blocking our chakras, which are the energy centers of the body, and all over the world, there's a Celtic chakra system and a South American Andean chakra system and the Indian chakra system. However it looks, they're energy centers. And when they are blocked, the result is the same. Illness and disease ensue, if we don't take care of it. So, and part of the way we can open, yes, with sound, with movement, lots of good things. But sound is a great way to start the inquiry because it's so accessible. You
Mm.
know, you can do these things at home. The work I do is one-on-one with my clients, and we can target in on a specific condition that they might be having, or health challenge. But the singing, the humming, the percussively tapping on the body, it's a little like EFT tapping, but just percussively tapping. It's like our mother's heartbeat when we're in the womb, and it's deeply grounding.
And we know,
Playing
like,
wind chimes. I mean, so many things that we can do
yeah,
in our homes, and of course, listening to sound baths on YouTube or wherever.
that when you said about the percussive tapping, we
Mm,
know in various psychological journals that there's been lots of research as well. So on the EFT tapping, but again,
yes.
as you say, that tapping just on the chest rhythmically, we know that it calms people down. It's part of I think it's part of cognitive behavioral therapy as well, like this ability
Mm,
to connect with the body, and you know these um these actions that I think, it's very easy to dismiss the simplicity or the accessibility um of these kinds of techniques and gifts that we can give ourselves, because it doesn't come in a pill box. You don't pay lots of money for it. They're things that are readily available. And so I think their value gets diminished in many ways because of the way that we perceive value. But it feels so important that we collectively open up to what some of these opportunities are, in order that we can explore what really works for us without that sort of inner critic going, oh no, I don't think that's not for us. But actually, to be able to open up and just see what works.
Yes. May I read you a short
Please
quote
do.
by this wonderful doctor? He's an oncologist, Dr. Mitchell Gaynor, and he wrote a book called The Power of Sound Healing, which I read many years ago. He's an oncologist. He does sound baths for his clients. And anybody interested in this can just go to YouTube and type in his name and watch him give a sound bath to his many, many cancer patients, because he believes in this so much. He's a Western doctor who believes in this. He tells us, and I quote, sound can redress imbalances on every level of physiological functioning and can play a positive role in the treatment of virtually any medical disorder. And so that, my dear, is the future of medicine that the doctors are perceiving. And he's not the only one. All the research that I read is by doctors and medical researchers and sound scientists working together. And the research that's going on now that is coming out of, in the US, the National Institutes of Health, combined with the National Institutes of Mental Health, Rutgers University, UCLA, like they're all researching this because it really is the future of integrative medicine,
And
complementary medicine.
that's key, isn't it? It's this idea
Mm-hmm.
that it's integrative, that it's
Yes,
it's not something other.
that's
It's
right.
it's woven in. I have a friend who worked for many years as the lead nurse in a big oncology charity here in the UK.
Mm.
And then she gradually trained as a somatic practitioner, so using massage and different sort of massage techniques. And then she became the lead somatic practitioner. So she went from being a senior nurse to being a senior somatic practitioner in the same charity, working with the same patients, because they recognized how important the power of touch is for their
Yes.
patients. And it feels like it's a very similar shift of recognizing how important sound is. I've got a quote for you, actually, Kathy, something that,
Oh,
that
good.
I came across, which is from Cambridge Sleep Sciences, so from Cambridge University. Sound is a very powerful and effective means of changing brain state and improving mood. It is understood that low frequency sounds are linked to relaxing brain states, while higher frequencies encourage alertness and focus.
Yes.
So that is such a simple observation, and it's so important, I think, that these sort of organizations, scientists, researchers are doing this work, just as people are researching the power of mindfulness, people are researching the power of somatic practices, and really recognizing, going all the way back to what you said right at the beginning, the wisdom that traditional ancient cultures have known forever.
Yes. I love that. I love that. And something else about low frequencies, um, yes. And so they can help us to go into a much more relaxed brain state, alpha and theta. Theta is the beautiful brain state of creativity, and alpha relaxation and all of that. But new science that I think is not even published yet. This is with one of my teachers who's a sonic scientist working with medical researchers, John Stewart Reed. They've discovered that low frequencies, when applied to red blood cells, helps them to reinvigorate. So there's something about the low frequencies, and low frequencies are especially good with pain reduction. So when I was going through all of this with my spine, I had tremendous pain and was on lots of pain medicine cocktail and just horrendous. One of the things I found with sound, and I have a gong. A gong is one of the most healing of all instruments because it has the lowest of low and the highest of high frequencies. So it has the full spectrum. And in doing that, it is, if you will, speaking to all of the various cells in our bodies. And so the very low frequencies of tuning forks helped me with pain management
Wow.
in a way that I didn't believe it would. I was certain, nothing would help. And I still have pain to this day. And sometimes it's insane. And I use my low frequency tuning forks. And I always have this little part of my brain that says, yeah, as if this is going to help. The pain is just so off the charts today, as if this is going to help. And I am always astonished that it takes it down a notch or a smidgen. And
Wow.
sometimes when you're dealing with pain or other kinds of things, um, that, that little increment that sound is able to provide, combined with everything else that we're doing, makes things tolerable when
Mm.
sometimes they are not tolerable.
Brilliant.
It's
Brilliant.
amazing.
I love that. I love that because I was really feeling what you were saying just then, that sometimes just that little shift
Mhm.
can feel so enormous, because exactly as you say, it takes something from being intolerable to being tolerable.
Yeah,
And then our other coping mechanisms can kick in,
right.
and we can start to rationalize something, or we can look for other solutions, whatever. But having, um for me, it makes sound part of first aid. Part of
Yes,
your first aid is like, okay, let's go
that's
here,
right.
and then we can see what can come next.
Everything is incremental in
Yeah,
healing, right? Everything's
yeah.
incremental. So the bottom line is to have a really good toolbox of what you can turn to. And so sound can be one of the tools in our toolbox.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Oh, Kathy, it's been an absolute joy. I can't believe we've been speaking for almost an hour now. It's just
No.
what a just and also,
It's
I
been
mean,
a
thank you
joy.
so much for sharing about that free offering that you have. I'll definitely include the details of that, because that sounds so wonderful. And you've also ignited in me um, a lovely, timely reminder of reconnecting with sound baths as a healing practice. That's really
Wonderful.
lovely.
And I'll mention one more thing for anyone who
Please
wants to take a
do.
deep dive. Also on my website, toward the bottom of the homepage, there are lots of articles. And I did a pretty robust article for Yoga Magazine on the power of sound healing. So there
Okay.
are lots of free resources there for people who want to take a deeper dive. And they've got the links to go to some of these people who I've quoted. So there are more
Brilliant.
resources there. It's
Brilliant.
been just a delight to be
Oh,
here with
Kathy.
you, Henny. I've loved this conversation. Thank you.
I have one more question for you, actually. I have a
Sure.
question that it's something that I often ask my guests, and it's something I ask my clients too. Um, if you saw this time in your life right now as a chapter in your book of life, what would your chapter heading be?
Ooh, new life. It would
Hmm.
be new life because everything I have gone through opened a door to a life that is fundamentally different from what I had before, which I thought was the life of my dreams. But it is so much more healing, centered, in alignment with my soul purpose, I believe, and what I am meant to do on this earth. So, new life. I know that sounds very just sort of vague, but
No,
it
it
is a
sounds
total
beautiful.
new life that I never would have thought possible were it not for all the health challenges I went through. Yeah.
Well, we are honoured to have been part of this experience, of this new life with you, Kathy. It's been
It's
wonderful to
just
speak
been
with
a
you.
delight. Thank you so much, Henny.
Oh, thank you, Kathy.